Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Many people in my audience have driver's licenses, and most people know how they work. But the interesting thing is not everyone has interaction with the police. There are people I know who've been driving their entire lives and have never once been pulled over. I've been pulled over a couple times. It's been a while now, but I've been pulled over a couple times. And here's the thing. If you get pulled over and get written a ticket for a moving violation, and you don't get it dismissed in court entirely, you might get points assessed against your license as well as the fines and costs of going to court and taking care of the infraction. And so those points, depending on the state you're in, after you stack up so many points within a certain period of time, they can have an impact on your ability to drive. And your license can even be suspended if you hit a certain number within a certain time frame. And I'm not going to get into how much those are because it varies from state to state, but you can look it up very easily in your state. You should know this, though, because generally speaking, to pass the driving test, you are usually asked questions that make sure that you understand there are points associated with tickets. And I do handle traffic tickets. It's been a little while, but I used to handle quite a few of them. That's actually something I did a lot of. And people would call my office, say, Steve, I got a traffic ticket. Here's what I did. And most people, number one, admit they were doing what they're accused of. I very rarely got somebody who said, Steve, I didn't do it. Almost always people go, yeah, I did it. But is there something we can do about the points? And quite often you can plea bargain and get the points removed and plead to something that has no points associated with it. And what happens then is your driving record will show that there's an infraction of some sort, but it won't have points attached to it. And that, of course, is the concern. And because, one, you can lose your license after getting too many points. But number two, your insurance rates can go up if you get points. And it depends on what state you're in and who your insurance company is. But generally speaking, if you get 3 points or more, your insurance company will probably take some sort of action with respect to what they charge you for your insurance. So here's the question. What happens if you get tickets in other states? Because many states report the information back and forth. And there's even some dispute on this, which I will explain the nuances of as we get to them. But speaking of North Carolina, one of my favorite states in the union, North Carolina law suspends driver's licenses for speeding more than 15 miles per hour. 15 over will get your driver's license suspended, but it's worse than that. Because if it's 15 over in another state, but you have a North Carolina driver's license, they'll still get you. Brian Gordon wrote this for the Asheville Citizen-Times. Big Al sent it. Thanks, Big Al. Many speeding tickets will lead to a license getting suspended, but most people know that on some level. Under state law, North Carolina, getting a ticket for driving more than 15 miles per hour over the speed limit, if you're going above 55, will trigger a 30-day suspension, even if it's your first offense. So in Michigan, if you're doing 15 over, I think it's a 3-point offense, but other than that, it's just, yeah, you get some points. The mandatory license suspension law also applies to speeding violations that occur out of state. North Carolina is one of the 46 states in the Driver's License Compact in which member states exchange information regarding traffic violations. If the North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles receives a report from Colorado that a North Carolina licensed driver was going 72 in a 55, it will mail that driver a letter explaining that their license is set to be suspended. Suspensions are typically a month, but can be longer, depending on the violations and driver's past history. With modern technology, they say that states now communicate more efficiently with each other about traffic violations, leading to more suspensions. And I remember reading years ago that Michigan was not officially a member of the Driver's License Compact. Yet, I can tell you that I went to court for people and saw their driving records showing that they'd gotten tickets in other states. So the information was still getting to Michigan. It just wasn't coming through the compact, and I'm not even sure what that means. All I know is I saw the records, and I had prosecutors tell me, you understand your client's got a ticket over here and a ticket, and they're telling me about tickets out of state. So an attorney who's based in Charlotte named Bill Powers recommends that drivers hold off from immediately pleading guilty to speeding tickets of more than 15 miles per hour, and you don't just roll over and pay the fines. Instead, he encourages drivers to contest the ticket, see if they can get the violation changed to something else, preferably under 15. The attorney believes the law should be reformed, especially considering that North Carolina now has more highways crisscrossing the state, getting drivers more opportunities to go more than 15 miles per hour too fast. Drivers who do plead guilty to their tickets and subsequently receive letters notifying them of an impending suspension can request a preliminary hearing with an NCDMV judge to get their suspensions lifted. The hearing request is $100. Just to request the hearing, $100, and must be submitted before the suspension goes into effect. A driver's license is not suspended while they await a hearing. So what happens is you'll plead guilty to this if you didn't take this guy's advice, and you'll get a letter saying you're about to be suspended. You can pay $100 and get the hearing, but the problem is at the hearing, the DMV person is going to say, well, did you do it? You pled guilty to it. And I assume what they're getting at is that if you plead some kind of hardship, they might be able to say, okay, fine, we won't suspend it, or we'll give you some kind of limited driving rights despite the suspension. At the hearing, lawyers recommend drivers keep it simple and show contrition. So in other words, the old I didn't do it, don't go with that. Walk in humble. It's more just a question of have you learned your lesson from this particular situation. He said drivers should be prepared to explain why they are speeding, whether they were using cruise control, and what impact losing their license for a month would have on their personal and professional lives. And that's an interesting question, but whether you were using cruise control. Because cruise control, if you set it for 15 over and you got caught and you say, well, I was speeding, but I was using my cruise control, I don't think that would help you any. Unless you claimed it malfunctioned or something. I set it for 9 over, and somehow, next thing I know, I'm doing 15 over. I mean, I don't know about that. But he does say, in essence, that it appears that one thing they look at is whether or not you look like you're sorry. And I've represented people before who look like, prototypically, like the librarian at your local library, who you're not even sure if she can speak at a full volume because you've only heard her whisper, okay? Someone like that gets their first ticket. They've been driving for 30 years, got their first ticket. I've represented somebody like that before. I've also represented the guy who comes into my office and I see his driving record and I'm like, I don't think you're old enough to have gotten all these tickets. How did you do this? And someone who can accrue that many tickets in that short period of time, you realize ain't learning a lesson. They're not learning. And that's one of the things that the court is trying to do. The court will look at you and go, do we need to teach you a lesson? And by the way, this is going to happen in any case, whether it's a criminal case or a traffic case. Do we need to teach you a lesson? Because one of the purposes of law enforcement is to try to get people to conform their behavior to societal standards. Pretty sure it's a phrase I've never said before in that order. Get you to conform your behavior to societal standards. But that's what the judge is looking at somebody going, if I just tap them on the wrist, will they go back out and speed again and do crazy stuff? Or has this person learned their lesson? And by the way, yes, judges know that people come into court in their best behavior, especially after I've told them to dress nice. Let me do most of the speaking for you, and here's what I want you to say if he asks you to say something, or if she asks you to say something. Judges understand that, but they think that they've got the ability to filter that out. But like I said, I've had the guy before where the judge opens up the file and he has the driving record. It's like, oh, goes the second sheet, then the third sheet. Mr. Lehto, have you seen your client's driving record? Yes, Your Honor, I have. And you'll notice that many of those were when he was younger. And I've spoken to him at length about this and explained to him that this is pretty much his last chance. And I believe if you go easy on him, he's going to walk out of here changed. Not necessarily in those exact words, but I've had good luck with that one. And strangely, and there are going to be people out there, by the way, who are going to say this is completely wrong, but this is human nature. I've handled a lot of traffic tickets in certain courts where I know the prosecutors. I've been in front of these judges and seen these prosecutors so many times. They know me. They recognize me. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Walk in. Oh, hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Haven't had a client speeding through your jurisdiction lately. What can I tell you? And that does help. It does help. So I talk to the prosecutor, work out a decent deal, go in front of the judge, get the judge to approve the deal. The fact that I've been there before and they recognize and they know me, they go, oh, okay, he's vouching for this person. They know I'm getting paid, okay? I understand that. But it does go a long way when they realize, okay, he's been here before, he knows this. This is not his first rodeo. But the point here is that many states will not take the draconian action of suspending your license for simply doing 15 over as long as it's above 55. So I believe this right here means if you're going through a 45 mile an hour zone at 61 miles per hour, at 60 actually, they can pull you over, give you a ticket, and if it sticks, you'll get suspended for 30 days in North Carolina. And if you do the same thing in another state, but a North Carolina license is in your hands, that's the one you got is North Carolina. Happens in another state, when they report it back, North Carolina will suspend you. And that does seem a little harsh, but hey, that's the way the law is. And every time I do a video where I talk about a law like this, I get people who say, Steve, that's why people hate lawyers, because stupid laws like this. I didn't pass this law. I'm not even in North Carolina. I said I like the state. Been there many times. Beautiful state. But I didn't write this law. I'm not in favor of this law. I think this law is harsh. I do. So if you want to hate lawyers, pick a better reason than that. But North Carolina law suspends driver's licenses for speeding more than 15 miles per hour. Brian Gordon wrote this for the Asheville Citizen-Times. Big Al sent it. Thanks, Big Al. If you're in North Carolina, slow down. And if you've got a North Carolina driver's license in another state, slow down. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Life is a balance of holding on and letting go.